Hey guys, how's it going? Philip at Trade Genius. All right, I just wanted to do a follow-up video from our Bitcoin update the other day where we said, watch out, we could have a pullback, and that's happened. So wanted to update some of the stuff that we talked about in that last video and then see what levels we're looking at for Bitcoin to bounce from. All right, so let's dive into this video and check that out.
Trade Genius.
Guys, real quick, if you want to get in the room with us, we're running this $3.99 special. So you get the annual room entry. So 12 months of room access with us. Get you the binary options, which we just closed out a couple more winners. We're up to 144 wins, 9 losses on that. So if cryptos are taking a break, like right now we have a pullback in the alts and waiting for more entries, we always got those binary options going, as well as the ETF signals and our cryptocurrency calls. So if you guys are interested, please check that out. All right, so BTC, what's going on? We have basically a pullback now. This isn't the daily, guys. We said we were getting way overextended on the TD sequential count, right? So remember 9 count and 13 counts we would key in on, and basically, got overextended on that, and now we've pulled back. What we were working on was, on the 4-hour chart, I'll show you, was we got into this triangle here, and basically, a lot of people were thinking that this was going to bust higher and maybe take us to that 5,700 level. I was a little suspect of this move up because a lot of times what's been happening is that you get basically a run of the stops and then a pullback. So what I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to see if this triangular structure would hold, and it did not. And so then we moved down. So what I have here, obviously we have our channel, or our linear regression channel, that kind of gives us a barometer of what's overbought and oversold, just visually. And obviously now we're hitting oversold in the 4-hour. So, does that mean we're gonna bounce up? Well, what we need to take a look at is just kind of the levels now. If you notice on the volume profile here, and it might be a little hard to see, but you're going to see different various levels where we have these volume nodes that stick out. So that's going to be where most of the price action was at that particular price level as far as volume is concerned. And most notably, you're going to see a gap here from, let's say, this last node at about 4,700 down to where we broke out at. Now, probably what most of you would think is that if we broke through this 4,700 level, we'd probably mosey on down and see some support here at 4,200. But a lot of times what will happen, especially when you get this first strong move up on a structure like this, is you actually won't see that those will get front run. There was a little bit of buying inside this 4,400 range on the way up, that there's a little battle in here. So we could actually see maybe a low of, like, say 4,400 to 4,500 if this pullback continues. What we see here is probably the first push down. You could expect to see 2 to 3 pushes down on this move. Interesting thing to note, guys, is the levels that we're looking at. Now, you're going to see basically a level here. We almost came up and tagged. What that is on the daily chart, what you'll notice is if you go back to where we came down from, this is an area where basically you had one green candle before the action resumed down. And a lot of times those areas will provide you a clue as to where some of these moves will stop. Sometimes people will look at the lows of these other moves, and those lows just basically get bypassed. But if you look at these areas where things have been fought, and you highlight that area of the chart and then wait for a confirmation, like you could take a lower time frame moneymaker sell or slingshot sell, something like that, and then confirm that that's a good to go entry. The other thing is we've run into our fib levels here, and basically if it stays within that 0.75 level on the fib retrace, that's, a lot of guys might even wait for that level, but if it shows that it respected that level and moves back down like it did here, that's going to probably see more downside. So these are things that are confluent. The other thing here on the daily, you'll notice here's another one of those cases where we have a bar where you see kind of a fight before the trend resumes here. And so that's an area that we highlighted here. So notice we kind of touched it and then bounced back up. I don't know that the story is done there. The other spot that we're looking at is going to be, and we have to scroll back here, but if we look at this area here on the monthly, you'll see that's another area where we had a fight. Okay, so The very top of that area is going to be around that 4,700 area. And I actually think that's probably a likely spot that we see this come back into and bounce off of. So just bear that in mind when you see that come back down into that area. That's a spot. So so came down, touched this first area that we would see some basically previous area where it was fighting. Again, on the 1 day, I'll show you that right there. This probably has more downside to go, and I would expect that if we do see that that downside, that we're probably going to be looking around below 4,800. The other thing to keep in mind is these gaps. Now, this is the futures, okay? So futures don't trade over the weekend. So when Bitcoin moves a lot over the weekend and then reopens, you get a gap opening. So gapped up here. So this is like where the gap would close, and sure enough, we close that. There's a smaller gap here around 48.70. Now, these small gaps, because this is only like a $20 gap, those are a little less of a magnet, only because on some of the higher time frames, like a 4-hour chart, you don't really see it. It doesn't really show up versus these bigger ones that do show up. Okay, so that one may or may not really come into play and make that much of a difference. We had one of those a lot lower, down in the low 3,000s, and it's the same situation. It's such a small, tiny gap that it could not, probably doesn't technically play out like that. So, but that's the futures chart. So those are the two levels that we were looking at for possible gap closes. Again, I think this has potential to break back down. And when it does, we're going to be looking, this is that daily chart. So if we go back to a 4-hour chart, again, what we'd be looking at is, I'm going to be really keen in on this level down here around this between 4,800 and 4,700, and see what the technicals look like at that point. But that would be a level I'd be keen in on as far as catching a bounce on Bitcoin and then moving back up. As far as the moving back up part, if we look at the fib retracement, our current fib retracement, let's turn off the TD sequential here. So our current fib retracement is from the start of this move here and then to the top of this move. So again, we're looking, starts at about 4,800 and then 46.57 is the first part of that zone. And if it gets really overextended, we could see 45.42 or so, or 45.35, I should say. And then we also have a bit of a volume node there before we get into that. So that would be like, this would hold before we get into that volume void. And I think on this move up, I think there's enough momentum going that this actually does hold. We don't really see this full volume void retracement over here, okay? And you can see it better. Let's do visual order, bring to front. You can see that a little better here, all right? A lot of people might be expecting that to fully retrace. I don't think so because of the size of this move and the momentum. I could see a move back into kind of the fib zone area here and then move back up. If we look at, let's get rid of this. We talked about this last week, which was the longs and shorts, and I'll do a more detailed video on that. But I think for now, what we're gonna do is look at our stochastics. Stochastics are pretty toppy, so those could stand to pull back some. If we look at the 4 hour is dipping. Again, when we get down to these levels, and it can go more, so I'm thinking we got a little bit more to the downside, these bottom out and then come back up, that would be possible short-term bounce. But more so, I'd be looking on the daily to see if we can get some kind of signal on these stochastics to let us know that on the daily we might be seeing a bigger bounce. And on that bigger bounce, guys, fib's target on this move here is gonna be about 5,800. So I think honestly that's probably a decent move up. When we get to 5,800, we'll look at the internals and see if how that's setting up. If that's maybe leg number 2, rest again, and then try for a third leg up into that 6,000 resistance that we have over here. Okay. All right. So that's it for this video, guys. I think a little bit more downside, then be looking for a bounce higher. In the meantime, alts probably won't see any new entries on that until we let this play out a little bit. So there you have it. Hope that helps, guys. Thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys watching our videos and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.
Trade Genius.